Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green White Checkered TV for tonight's coverage of the Dark Horse Area 51 IndyCar Series here at Kentucky Speedway this evening. Definitely an exciting battle as we continue on through the season. A little over two-thirds, it should be the two-third mark through the season tonight. I believe our 8th or ninth race of the season, so definitely getting close in the points battle for that championship. Lots of action still to be had here on Tuesday nights, but I can definitely guarantee tonight's going to be another thriller at another 1.5 mile track that is a very unique as far as the corners go. It's not, Kentucky's always driven a little bit differently than what you would kind of call the cookie cutter 1.5 miles. So something a little bit different, but lots of fun and should be a great race tonight. Joined with me tonight is Gael Brooks. Gael, I'm so excited to have you back this week. And yeah, what are you looking forward to tonight?
Yeah, say back to the fast tracks for me. Obviously left off over at Spa, back now here tonight with obviously missed the Auto Club last week, unfortunately, but I was glad to have you and Andrew running the show over there. So he is just a wealth of information. So glad we've been able to kind of take advantage of his abilities, but it's unfortunately real life taking him away tonight. So you're stuck with me tonight, Boomer. I'm just looking forward to this one. This is, I say, it's not the typical 1.5 mile oval here, of course, with this reconfigured Kentucky. Obviously, full send through turns 1 and 2, but then 3 and 4, they're going to have to back it down a little bit, try to make sure they get that car to rotate because you cannot flat-foot it through 3 and 4. So that track position and also positioning your car on track through the turns, I think those are going to be the names of the game this evening to put yourself in a good spot to have a chance to win this race.
Yeah, definitely like we mentioned, a little bit of a unique 1.5 mile track, actually 1.46 miles in length. Going to be, again, 125 laps here as we typically run on the 1.5 mile track. So should be a lot of fun. I know it sounds like you've got some fuel numbers that you can share with us in a minute, but should be, plenty of strategy. Obviously, we've seen a lot of cautions as far as people getting in and out of pit road on some of the more treacherous pit entries, which this track, sometimes can be no exception. So we'll have to see and watch that throughout the night and see who can run long on the pit cycle and maybe try and stay out if a yellow does come out. But yeah, speaking of those pit strategies, Gal, it sounds like you had some ideas for how long they'll be able to run on fuel.
Yeah, when quizzed a couple drivers, and I was hearing they feel like it's going to be in the mid 30s on fuel mileage, 35 roughly, give or take. But the thing is, some of these guys are just fuel masters, and so they can pull way more than you think they can. And so, again, this is all based on it going green the full 125 laps. And so the window basically is, if you can stretch 42 laps per run, you could two-stop this race. Otherwise, more realistically, it sounds like it'll be a three-stopper, which you need to pit around lap 31, 32 to be able to make it on that three-stop window. So sounds like three-stopper, no problem at all there. Of course, if a yellow comes out, that's going to be the big question mark. But like you said, though, Boomer, the timing of the yellows, I think that's the name of the game. That's been the story of the season so far, is who's been able to work the fuel mileage to stay out on track when that yellow flies, because those have been the drivers that have really been able to take advantage of the track position and get right back into the thick of things. So that's going to be, I think, what we will have to watch the closest to see once pit window opens for green flag pit stops. I think everybody, us included, are going to be on pins and needles wondering if we're going to get through the cycle clean or not, because that's been the story, I think, this season.
Yeah, and as we pan through the scenic views of the track here at Kentucky, you can definitely see how quickly that wall off of turn number 4 here comes up, and how that pit entrance definitely narrows up as it gets off of the apron onto the apron and off of the racing surface. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys can manage that. But we've had these guys doing this now for about 8 or 9 weeks. They're definitely into the thick of the season, as we've already mentioned, and a lot of guys that have a lot of experience as far as running these cars and knowing what adjustments to make, throughout the corners. They have all those options to play with the weight jackers and the ARBs and just stuff that can kind of change the balance of the car throughout the run. So definitely know that those guys are working really hard inside of the cockpit of these machines tonight. So it'll be exciting to see definitely gonna look to see the 89 of Nick DeGroot try and extend his point lead. Obviously, we've had a pretty tight battle with him and Jeff Hysong so far for the championship. Craig Forsyth, obviously getting a couple wins here late, has definitely entered his name in the chat for that the podium placings of the championship. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys fare tonight and kind of that race within the race to keep an eye on those point standings. But it looks like qualifying has finished and we are about to take to the grid. So we'll see if we can pull up that grid here and get you our starting results. Looks like the number 6 machine of Matt Wagner is going to take the pole with a 24.383 second lap here around Kentucky, with Charles Teed to the outside pole in second place. William Gunn will start third with Jeff Hysong on the outside of row number 2. Eric Peterson rounds out your top 5 with Craig Forsyth to his outside on the third row. Nick DeGroot starting 7th and Luis Gonzalez Nunez in 8th place. Jim Herrick and Gary Corley will round out the top 10. We also have Chris Jabot, first car on the 6th row, and Dan Morera to his outside. And we got a couple more on the second page of the grid here. We'll also throw in Joseph Morales and Jim Brooks on row number 7, and Taylor Reeves starting in 15th for tonight. So a little bit of a shorter field, but definitely going to be plenty of action, I guarantee. And what has been, a lot of fun with even with smaller car counts, we've seen a lot of fun action and a lot of side-by-side racing this season.
Yeah, it kind of almost throws back to me to kind of the IROC type style racing where it's a smaller fields, but the racing is still super intense. And I say the big thing right there is, pole position between Matt Wagner and Charles Teed, 1/1000th of a second between those top two drivers. That's so you pretty much can't even you can't blink and get that kind of a difference. So yeah, those two right on top of each other. And it's gonna be fun to see who's gonna kind of go after that track position early, because of course that initial start's always on the green here. So so obviously short distance is going to be good through 1 and 2, but then I'll be watching through 3 and 4 again. Who's going to kind of be that one to really brave it, sending it through 3 and 4. But you mentioned Craig Forsyth, those wins he's had rolling off. He has shrunk that gap from that third position after Kansas Speedway. He's been really closing it. He was 112 points out of the lead after Gateway at race 5. And then he's just been steadily closing in. And after last week's race, he's down to a 68-point gap between himself and the lead. So he's been making big gains. Again, the points also don't account for the one drop week that we will have coming in. Again, no playoffs, anything like that. So it will be the overall points champion season long. So it's gonna be fun to see what these guys have in store for us.
Yeah, definitely. Love that nod to tradition in the IndyCar series. No gimmicks, no playoffs, no nothing, just straight up championship points. Gotta love to see something like that nowadays when just about every other racing series has something kind of gimmicky going on. So appreciate that these guys stick to the IndyCar roots, and should be a great race tonight. Definitely gonna see if Matt Wagner can hold on to that pole position and get a win, his first win of the season potentially tonight. He's spent a lot of time on the pole and up at the front of the pack, but no wins so far. So Charles Teed also with a pretty solid run to start the week last week, I believe, at Auto Club. So it'll be interesting to see if those guys can seal the deal. But we're going green flag action. As always, the first start will be on the flagman, and you'll see them just through the Geico restart zone. They're going to get up through the gears here and get underway for 125 laps tonight.
Yeah, so far it's good, so good. And yeah, like you said, that inside line, that's like we mentioned, definitely surges ahead for Matt Wagner, and that's kind of what you expect to see. But now Charles, if he can tag onto the inside, maybe steal a little draft, but actually William Gunn's going to take that spot on the inside line. So now it's that drag race into 3. And so far, lower lane looking good for Matt. Again, these guys have cold tires. They got to be careful, let those temps build up, because it's going to be real tight on the initial start. But looks like everybody's playing nice so far, as you see Teed, though, starting to make a move to that outside.
Yeah, he's definitely sticking with our leader, Matt Wagner here, just kind of staying on the rear wing there, not letting him go quite yet, as they're looks like they're going to get clear and maybe try a crossover move into 3, as Charles Teed's going to try and take the bottom this time, see if he can get back around Matt, see if Charles can lead a lap here. It doesn't look like it's going to be, yep, it will be Matt still, so no lap led for Charles Teed just yet, but the night is still young.
Yeah, but now he had that inside line into turn number 1. That is crucial for his chances here, because like I said, you want that short distance through 1 and 2, so it's a good opportunity here. Now, like I said, now it's just, can he keep the power down with that clean air on the front wing? But Matt's holding really good momentum here out of 4. and it looks like Matt's going to hang on to that lead. And these are two, like I said, two very strong drivers that just have not had the results they've been wanting. Say Charles has kind of been more of a part-timer this season. Real life kind of taken him away, unfortunately, from being able to race with us as frequently as we'd love to see. And then Matt, I mean, he's been so close so many times. It's just been a kind of a trial and frustrations for that 6 machine. So the other thing we got to watch, though, as I was about to mention, was Nick DeGrooter, points leader coming tonight. Started in 7th. And so mention, I mean, obviously like not a huge field, but still, I mean, that's mid-pack. So he's already gained 2 spots, working his way up now into 5th. Now actually working on Craig Forsyth for 4th position. So making quick ground. And again, I mean, that's kind of what we come to expect to see from Nick. Able to make moves when it feels like nobody else is able to do those. So, but I'm going to be kind of closely watching Craig. I feel like he's definitely kind of, again, running his Craig race, not running too hard, but making sure he stays in good track position. Like I said, if we go caution free to the first green flag pit stop, I'm watching that 27 to see how far he can go, because I feel like he's already working those dials and trying to make some magic fuel mileage.
Oh, you know, if there's someone who's playing with fuel strategy already, and the human calculator, Craig Forsyth there, figuring out how many laps he needs to go before he needs to pit. Definitely working on that, though Matt Wagner here up at the front just actually ran the fastest. Actually, no, I take it back. Now Nick DeGroot ran the fastest lap of the race that time by, so definitely a lot of speed up at the front here as Charles Teed runs a 24.50. Nick DeGroot ran a 24.46 and Jeff Heisong a 24.58. So a lot of speed. These guys trying to get something a little bit early. Obviously, Charles Teed trying to take over that point, lead a couple laps, get a couple bonus points for the championship standings there. As we're working on lap number 8 now. Still really early, but yeah, definitely fairly quiet so far. Kind of, you know, evened out for the most part. A couple guys up 1 or 2 spots. We see Nick DeGroot up 3, as you mentioned, to 4th place. Charles T, Jeff Heisong, and Craig Forsyth all up 1 spot right now. Jim Brooks at the back of the pack, I believe, elected not to take a qualifying lap time. He's up to 10th from 14th, so up 4 spots, our biggest mover of the race so far. So not a lot of action, but we'll definitely be sure to keep an eye on that to see who are our comers and goers through on and out this race.
Yeah, like I said, not a huge amount of change through the field. Like I said, Nick DeGroot obviously won, then Jim Brooks, of course, like you said, starting kind of towards the back there. But yeah, right now, it's kind of just going that back and forth with Matt and Charles here for that top spot. Saw for a moment there, I was watching Jeff Heisong. You could tell he was maybe trying to find an opening to peek in there and join the party. But he's kind of had to settle in here in that 3rd position, which is going to put him right into the crosshairs of that number 89 of Nick DeGroot. But also Nick has kind of settled in a little bit more than I maybe would have expected to see, which makes me think, again, he might be thinking strategy as well here in that 89 machine, just trying to take it easy. Maybe got the track position, likes where he is around some drivers he's very comfortable with racing, and is able to kind of hang on where he is right now. So we'll see. Like I said, these guys are very, very strategic, and they kind of, after they get a couple laps in, they know their fuel mileage, and they say, okay, based on this pace, I can do this. So yeah, I have a feeling, like I said, these guys aren't showing their full hand right now.
Yeah, definitely early. I mean, it's you know, there's still a lot of time to try and play with different things and you know, see what there is available. Obviously, you can kind of see you know, Matt Wagner and Charles Teed have been playing with trying to make the outside line work here as they work down the back straightaway. Matt trying to figure out what it can take to actually get around on the outside of Charles Teed here. So definitely you know, early on, you don't want to play your hand, but you also want to take those opportunities to try stuff. You know, you've got plenty of laps left to see what moves will work and what won't. So you know, eventually, obviously, the guy who's at the line on the, you know, the final lap, you know, who gets it back to the line first is going to be the one who wins. Doesn't matter if he's on the inside or the outside. So we haven't seen it happen too often, but I know there's plenty of guys in this field that have been able to make magic happen on the outside. So we'll see if that inside lane is going to stay pretty predominant, as we've seen Charles Teed lead a fair amount of the laps here so far. But have to say, I'm sure those guys, especially further back in the pack, are going to be working hard, trying to make something happen on the outside.
Yeah, as speaking of that, I'm watching Eric Peterson right now. He was working for a 2-for-1 there for a moment, trying to get around Craig Forsyth and Nick DeGroot, really running that outside line pretty well. And a few laps before that, Luis Gonzalez was almost rim riding it there through 3 and 4. So they are starting to move a little bit here, trying to find that clean air. So I also, again, I didn't get to be a part of that race on broadcast side, but I got to give a big shout out to our 9th place driver right now, Jim Herrick. In that number 40 machine, getting the win at Auto Club. I say Jim has just been a great guy, great sponsor for the league and everything. So he's always one to help and be a part of everything. So It's always good to see those when you get those guys that are up front but don't get the opportunities to win when you got guys like Nick DeGroot and Jeff Heisong kind of hogging all the wins, Craig Forsyth. So that was I think it was probably a very popular win amongst the other drivers here in the league. So we'll see if he can kind of carry that momentum moving on forward here. But they're getting a little bit tighter up front. But I say that 50 and then 6 car, they just keep kind of going back and forth between one another. And so far, it looks like they've kind of settled back in a little bit from about Jeff Heisong on back. So I'm going to say if there's any fuel savings, it's not happening for these top 2. Oh, caution out, though. I think Gary Corley. Oh, yep, Gary Corley around on the front stretch. Caution is out.
As you see him getting going there. Let's take a look, see if we can look back at that caution. See what kind of view we've got here. See him. Oh, flying through the air at some point. See if we can get a better shot of this here. And maybe back it up just a smidge here. The point of caution that came out didn't give us the greatest angle, but we'll see if we can just play with the rewind button here and see what happened, and see if we can go a little bit of slow motion here.
Yeah, I went back. I'm taking a look as well. So while you get it pulled up, and yeah, it looks like just apron strikes again.
Wow, man, just absolutely loose in the apron. Wow, I can't believe
they just transition. These cars just do not handle transition at all, and that's why we see so many pit stop miscues. But you're right though. I mean, that thing just caught the grass, and that thing about flipped up and over. So he might escape from this one. Maybe he doesn't have to burn that fast repair. But yeah, that was definitely a close call for Gary.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. I would assume that for the most part, he's just going to have to deal with a little bit of, maybe a couple seconds of damage that he can repair pretty easily on this pit stop here. But we'll have to wait and see as we see the field now coming down pit road. Looks like everybody is in except for last week's winner, Jim Herrick. So maybe an opportunity for him to try and play something a little bit different with the strategy. Maybe expecting the another yellow to come out soon. So you see Jim Herrick, the lone car, staying out. Would assume that's intentional, but definitely at least 2/3 of the way through the pit cycle here. We'll see if he does end up electing to come down the second time, or if he is going to stay out.
Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye on that. I wonder also maybe just try to get that bonus point, lead a lap, just again, every point you can get. So with this being a 1.5 mile track, I believe they should get 2 laps around and then get the 1 to go. So I think he'll have the opportunity to pit. And looking at Gary Corley, it was about an 11-second pit stop, so a little longer, but that that might account for maybe either a front wing change or something like that. So we'll keep an eye on that number 7 car for sure here. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on what Jim's strategy is. And so now I'm going to have to do some more math here, because with this caution coming out, these guys are going to restart around probably about lap 21, 22, it looks like. That's going to put them right in about just outside of 100 laps to go in this thing. So I think at that point, that really takes the fuel mileage out of it. I think from there's no questions. It's 2 stops to the end. I don't see any way you're going to one-stop it from here.
Yeah, no, there's definitely no way you can one-stop it, and who knows, they might even have to go a little bit longer than that. May still have to stop a couple times, but we'll see. We do see Jim Herrick coming in this time, though, so I'm not sure if that was a miscue or intentional to maybe get to the back, but he'll be pitting in this second time around, and who knows, maybe it was intentional and trying to grab a little bit of, he would have grabbed a lap lead and probably grab a little bit of extra fuel there, so we'll have to see what the plan is there for him, but we'll keep you updated on that. Not really breaking the bank. Obviously, you're going to have just over 100 laps to go, and we mentioned about 30 laps of fuel, so you're still going to have to pit at least twice more, maybe could be 3 times depending on how the rest of the cautions fall tonight, but that will surrender the lead back to Charles Teed. Matt Wagner still in second place with Jeff Heisong, Nick DeGroot, and Craig Forsyth, your top 5. So, again, not a lot of, comers and goers. We do see William Gunn has dropped back to the 8th position after that great qualifying run, and Jim Brooks is up 5 spots to the 9th position. So, other than that, not a ton going on. Just about everyone up or down 1 or 2 spots. So, not too crazy, but there's still plenty left here, as we're probably only about a 1/6 of the way through this race.
Yeah, still lots of racing to go. So now we get to our first restart here with Charles Teed controlling this one. So again, after the restart, or after the initial time, leader has control, single file restart. So it's going to be Charles Teed that's got control. So you're going to see everybody's going to try to kind of figure out when that 50 is going to go. Try not to fall too far back from, but then you have to watch the accordion effect from pretty much third on back. And so far, so good. Looks like everybody's behaving pretty well in this restart. So it looks like everybody's good to go. And of course, great news for all these guys too is that everybody's still on the lead lap as well. So still got all 15 cars going after it here. This is where Gary's going to be the most susceptible for kind of that overtake on the backstretch here is when you kind of get that big momentum shift out of two. But it looks like he's going to hold solidly on to the point. So now just everybody's going to try to kind of gather speed, get the tires warmed up. You got to be real careful for 3 and 4. And then once those tires are up into their temperatures, we'll kind of see business back to usual. So right now it's going to be Matt Wagner and Charles Teed doing exactly what they did that last time around, it looks like.
Yeah, no surprise. Charles Teed definitely taking that advantage and dropping right to the bottom already. Kind of resuming what he was doing at the lead of this pack. So definitely a good opportunity for him to continue to lead. It looks like there, I believe it was close. I actually think Charles Teed might have actually gotten that lap led over Matt Wagner. But you can see how Matt's trying to work on that outside, trying to gain that position at the start-finish line. So who knows, maybe something to work on for the rest of the night and something to try and maybe go for the win. But for now, Charles Teed has the bottom and definitely the advantage with fresh tires and full tank of fuel. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. Got about 100 laps to go here next time by. So like we said, still a lot of time left. And I definitely would have not have guessed that we would have seen a caution for before the first pit cycle. So definitely a little bit of an early caution to kind of throw a wrench in there, but doesn't really change the plans, I don't think, for pit strategy too much, as we already mentioned.
Yeah, I don't think it changes much, but I do think I honestly think that caution's a good thing, just for the overall racing, because I think I think it takes all fuel mileage out of the question. Like I said, I think some guys are going to be kind of in between having to do a 2 or 3 stop race. Now it's just pretty much an outright 2-stop race to the end. These guys will be able to kind of go full rich and just kind of do the racing that we want them to do. So I don't expect to see as many drivers kind of roll to the back here. So watching Luis Gonzalez there putting a move here on William Gunn, trying to grab that 7th position. William holding on strong, but with that momentum loss, you see that brought Jim Brooks right into the picture. Dan Moreau's right there. Chris Jabot's starting to creep in as well. So got a good little battle here from about 7th on back right now. And again, any little hiccup's going to cost you a couple spots. There's that rim riding I was talking about by Luis there. Pretty much 3rd lane and higher there for that 15.
Yeah, I think we actually were riding on Jim Herrick earlier as we were talking about his win last week, and I think he might have actually bumped the wall while we were on the onboard cam there. So definitely, pretty tricky as you get to the top. I believe we do have the progressive banking here, so I know that they're at least banked differently in each corner, but I believe they're also progressively banked here. So definitely quite a bit of a difference in both lines in the track, but they can still make that high side work. And as we mentioned, with Charles Teed kind of commanding the lead at the bottom, there really isn't much that you can do. I mean, you're either going to run the bottom or you're going to run the top. There's not really a ton of stuff that you can try here. So you kind of got to figure out what's going to work for your driving style, for your car and the adjustments that you're making in the car.
Yeah, you have to make some adjustments, figure out what you need to do in the dirty air, then what you need to do once you get back to the clean air, because you can make some pretty major adjustments to these cars. Obviously, like I said, with the weight jackers, that's kind of sounds like I'm still learning these cars a fair bit, but weight jackers sounds like that's kind of just a kind of more weight jackers overall, freeing up the car. Less weight jacker kind of tightens it up a little bit. It sounds like these guys use them mostly for the dirty airs when you make those adjustments. Whereas the ARBs is more of the just the overall settings of how you want the car to kind of behave, either in clean or dirty air. Oh, see right there, Matt Wagner
It's
kind
a
of
big
jumped
bobble
to the top.
from,
Just,
yeah.
A little nervous there.
Yeah, I think they both lifted at that point, but yeah, you're definitely right, Gael. There's a little bit of adjustment that they can do in the car. Obviously, the ARBs are kind of for the more overall balance of the car, but the weight jacker makes a huge difference, especially when you get in the wake of the car behind you. There's a big aero push in the toe, and it really upsets the front nose of these cars and makes them push really hard. So if you you kind of dial that weight jacker down, you get a chance to free the car up quite a bit. For some of the stock car guys out there, it's kind of similar to wedge in the car, but it's handled a little bit differently with these. So definitely a lot more tools for these guys to play with, and Really, I mean, it just adds the complexity of racing these Indy cars with, they're so light with so much downforce, and you really have to, you have to be on top of, almost manhandling these cars with how much faster they are going through the corners here. So we'll take a second to see if we could pull up the, see if we can find it, but I lost the word. See how fast they're going.
Yes, and I was actually watching that myself. I was kind of peeking at some of the front runners to see kind of, because obviously 3 and 4 is going to be where the speed drops the most. And I was watching, I believe it was the last lap was around Jeff Heisong around the top 5, and they're just dropping under 200 miles an hour. About 197 is what I just saw Jeff Heisong drop to there. And then they get all the way back up to about 220 miles an hour entering turn number 1. So these guys, like I said, the speed and the pace is very, very quick for this 1.5 mile oval here. But I was about to mention is that Craig Forsyth, though, he's been starting to make some moves. It looks like he's, like we talked about, fuel mileage out of the question. He's ready to get after it there and to say, there's your 3 championship contenders all under a blanket.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. So, yeah, thanks for picking up when I felt like stumbling over my words there. But you can see, as you mentioned, 220 miles an hour entering turn number 1. It's a lot of speed, a lot of focus you have to make to drive these cars around this track that fast. And Craig's definitely kind of making his moves a little bit early. I'm sure, still trying to hit those field numbers, but still a long ways to go, so not too much to worry about just yet. But, yeah, our 3 championship favorites in reverse order of the championship right now, running 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They're actually 3rd, 2nd, and 1st in the points, being Craig Forsyth, Jeff Heisong, and Nick DeGroot. And looks like we actually had a car pull off into the pits there.
Yeah, Taylor Reeves pit stop. Yeah.
Yep.
Went back and looked. I couldn't find anything obvious, but I think maybe had some lingering damage and opted to go ahead and hit pit road and I think get that fast repair taken care of. So unfortunately for Taylor, that puts him 2 laps down right now in the 41. But silver lining, of course, is the only car lap down at the moment. So say if we get another yellow, he would be able to get that wave around, get back on the lead lap. But man, it is tight up front right now. I'm watching these guys, and like you said, talking about stock cars and everything, that's almost how tight these guys are on one another. Almost looks like you're trying to push each other through the straightaways there. So, but this, even though they're tight like they are, and we talked about, of course, that the fuel mileage question is all 2-stopper to the end. That doesn't mean that fuel mileage is out of the question though, because people are gonna, again, they're gonna strategize and say, okay, I want to be up front, but I still want to maybe try to pit a lap or 2 later than the guys around me. We never know if it's going to be the undercut, the overcut, which is going to be the better strategy. So I think that still will come into play. So again, for me, if I'm in this main pack, because right now, I mean, you've got about 3-4 seconds between 1st and 14th right now. So I mean, it's just, they're all right there. And so if you can go an extra lap or 2 and again, maybe get that timely O that we've been seeing, unfortunately, a lot this season, you're going to be in the catbird seat because you're going to have all your competition at least 1 lap down, and you'll be able to get your track position right back.
Yeah, we've seen that a few times where that caution flag from after the first few drivers pit kind of flips the field, where everyone who has pit ends up being a lap down and has to get trapped that lap down, get their wave around, and then get back on the back of the lead pack on the lead lap. And then, same thing happens if another caution comes out. So, we've mentioned throughout the season, yellows have, untimely yellows or timely yellows, depending on who you are, has really shaken up a lot of the field. So, as much as you'd love to see, we did see a fair amount of green flag runs actually at Auto Club last week, which was great. I think we went 98 laps before our first caution and ended the race a little bit prematurely, but it's always good to see those long green flag runs and see where those strategies kind of end up. But a lot of guys really hungry here for this in this top 5. Obviously, Charles Teed continuing to control the race from the point. Matt Wagner doing everything he can to try and get around him. Craig Forsyth, we mentioned already, has been promoted to the 3rd position, and now Jeff Heisong actually taking over 4th. Holding on to 4th from the charging Nick DeGroot. So these guys are definitely battling really hard here about of the 3rd way through this race.
Yeah, it was a big bobble there out of turn number 4 for William Gunn. Hung on to it, but that makes me think that these tires starting to wear a little bit. He might start making some adjustments back on that 14 Red Bull machine because it got a little dicey for him there. So we'll have to keep an eye and see if he's able to kind of get that thing a little tightened up. But I was about to mention as I was watching Matt Wagner. Oh, that time very tight out of turn number 4 for that 14. Oh yeah, and you see Luis Gonzalez had to make a quick, abrupt left to avoid tagging him into the left rear. So yeah, William Gunn's starting to have a little bit of troubles in that 14 car. So I'll have to keep an eye on him because right now he's kind of dropped back just a little bit. But he needs to kind of either make some adjustments or just change where he's running on track to find that cleaner to keep that car rotating. As Luis just flirted with the outside wall, he had to back out of it. Look at all the momentum he lost just by that one little bobble there as William goes back low.
Yeah, Williams going to take that spot back over into turn number 1 here, it looks like. But yeah, definitely a good battle from these guys back here in the mid-pack. Definitely been fun to watch. Obviously, William Gunn with a great starting position, falling still back about 5 positions, but still hanging on to the back of the top 10 here. Having a great battle with Luis Gonzalez Nunez. I mean, pretty much anywhere up and down this field, there's an exciting battle going on. Obviously, our leaders are still continuing to mix it up here with Charles Teed and Matt Wagner. But Gaia, what you say we go through the field here real quick?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Let's run through the field here and go through our drivers where they are currently, because like I said, we're getting near that pit stop window here. So right now, start with our leader here, Charles Teed. Again, kind of one of our part-timers, but whenever he's in the field, you always have to watch that number 50. Again, started on second position at 1/1000th, but behind our current second place driver, and that is that number 6 of Matt Wagner. I've been mentioning about Matt is running. He kind of really does a late arc into turn number 1 to try to keep the momentum and kind of avoid that aero wash in exiting turn 2. He's having a good solid race here. And then of course, we get to our championship 3 currently as they run. Craig Forsyth sitting in that 3rd position in that number 27 4D Raceware machine. And behind him is the number 18 of Jeff Heisong. Again, so right, currently 2nd in points coming into time with the Black Rifle Company machine. And then in 5th, caution, actually, as we said, that caution is out. And I believe it is, yeah, Dan Morera, looks like the 26 is in the wall. And so I hear the drivers chat about it and looks like, yeah, just yeah, it sounds like maybe a racing deal. No anger, no temper. So these guys are unfortunately going to have to try to get themselves resorted. And yeah, going to have some strategy here. Actually probably minimal strategy. So let's go back, see if we can find what happened to Dan here.
Let's see if we can find what happened here. Here we go. This is point of caution here for Dan Morera. Looks like a little bit of contact there with the number 7 of Gary Corley. Try and run that back here in a better angle.
And the surprising part actually is that it's entering turn number 1 where you don't really expect to see that kind of a closing rate. So
yeah,
not sure if maybe Dan had to check up a little bit, maybe just was feeling tight, but yeah, and then unfortunately just Gary got into the back of that the number 26, and yeah, pretty decent contact with the wall. So
yeah, gonna tear off
unfortunately.
Go ahead.
I think he's made yes. I was saying I think he's made it back to pit road though, so he's gonna grab a gear and get back down and away. And everybody else here on to pit road here, though, Boomer, to make those pit stops here right at lap number 50 here across the line.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a mistake potentially from the 7 there. Not sure if he had a little bit of aero wash, but unfortunately the 26 of Dan Morera, was at the cost of him. So hopefully Dan can get back out there, and I believe he still has his fast repair, so shouldn't be too much harm there. As like you mentioned, I think he was able to get back to the pits without taking a tow. So thankfully for him, I think that'll keep him on the lead lap. If not, he'll be 1 lap down and would just be, the candidate for the lucky dog. Though Taylor Reeves would have gotten the lucky dog. As you see him running around the field, he'll rejoin the back of the pack. Now no longer 1 lap down. And Matt Wagner actually making some progress on pit road. He had a quicker stop, pit crew coming in clutch with about a half a second faster pit stop, and spent about a half a second less on pit road than Charles Teed did, and that half a second was enough for him to grab the lead. So definitely a big advantage for his pit crew to get him out front. Obviously in iRacing it's a bit of a random chance as far as how quick or how slow your pit stop your pit crew ends up changing your fuel and tires. So a bit unfortunate for Charles T that his crew ran a little bit longer compared to the rest of the field. Looks like he had about the longest stop of anybody on pit road. So definitely part of the chance of sim racing world. Obviously gives it a little bit of a little bit of drama to change it up, and not everyone gets the same exact pit stop every single time. So but we'll see Matt Wagner now on the point. He'll have that opportunity to try and see if he can maintain that lead from the bottom.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, though. So Taylor Reeves does get one of his 2 laps back. That was a big break for Taylor because now he only needs that one more to get back onto the main, back with the main pack. And yeah, Dan Marrero did hang on to the lead lap, so he's back in it here as well. Of course, we'll be at the tail end of the field, and of course had to burn the one fast pair that they have. But yeah, he's right back into the mix. So. And saying that's the benefit sometimes of that pole position too, Boomers. You can get into your pit stall and that shorter run to the line. So there is an advantage of going that 1/1000th quicker in qualifying. Matt was able to take advantage of this time.
Yeah, definitely. The time on pit road pretty even for Charles and Matt. Obviously, mentioned Matt about a half a second faster on the pit stop, and because he is able to just kind of accelerate straight forward and not have to turn, that does give him a little bit of an advantage there too. So definitely a good advantage, and looks like we got about one more lap here before we're going to go back to green. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back for the restart and all the action here on Green White Checker TV. All right, just about back here under green. Matt Wagner is going to lead the field off of turn number 4. The pace truck is going to make its way down onto pit road, and we will resume on lap 52. It'll be 53 by the time we cross the stripe. See what kind of an advantage here Matt can get. This is his first time leading from the point under single file action. Obviously, he led the field to the green flag, the initial start after grabbing the pole, but he's got a great advantage into turn number 1. Looks like he's going to hopefully carry that spot through the backstretch. Obviously, Charles Teed here is going to have a huge run coming down the backstretch, but I don't think he's going to have enough room to catch him, and Matt Wagner should be able to hold on to this lead, and maybe he can start to click off some laps led here as we're just under halfway through this race tonight.
Yeah, a big moment there on the restart going into turn 1. Jim Herrick, that car just completely stepped out on him and somehow just was able to pretty much drift it through on the apron through 1 and 2 and was able to grab a gear and get going again. But definitely a moment there for Jim Herrick. So unfortunately loses lots of track position, but hung onto the car, stays in the race. But that was a very, very close call for the 40. But he's able to keep after it here while Matt continues to lead. And was looking at the field, did a quick field number check, Boomer, at that caution. And this is going to be, again, a little bit on the tight side now, again, of making it to the end now on one stop. Because we restarted with about 72 laps to go, roughly. So that means these guys got to run 36 laps on each stint, which, again, we talked about the fuel mileage being around mid-20s, or mid-30s, I'm sorry. So it should be right in that window to make it on one stopper. So we might see some guys, and I feel like that's probably why we've seen the field kind of single out a little bit here. I think these guys want to make sure they can make it on that one stop.
Yeah, definitely. You can kind of see that they are starting to stretch out just a little bit here. Definitely being mindful of that pit strategy and that fuel strategy. Have to see what they can manage here through the rest of the race. Definitely going to be tight to get it there, but I think that's definitely going to be the winning move. Obviously, last week we saw Matt Wagner and the 89 of Nick DeGroot, be on the wrong end of the pit strategy. Didn't save enough, unfortunately, and kind of ruined most of their night. So definitely going to try and do what they can. Everyone going to be mindful of that, I'm sure, especially the 6 and the 89, to try and be the ones that are capitalizing on the fuel numbers. It looks like we actually have Gary Corley off track. Now we've thrown a yellow.
Caution is out. Yeah, he's just not been having a good night so far. But again, looks like just went for a wild slide, and looks like he's gonna be okay. Grab a gear again, but this is a great break though for Taylor Reeves back on the lead lap in that number 41. And I'd say it's also, once again, it's going to kind of, I think it's going to take the fuel mileage question out of it. But man, he say that, unfortunately, that number 7 Carvana machine, he's been doing some pretty serious off-road, and I feel like here, Boomer.
Yeah, definitely got a little tight off of 4 and tried to check up to correct it, and then ended up kind of snapping loose on him. And you see him going through a ride down the pit road and through the infield. So definitely a bit of a fun night for him so far. Hopefully he can continue stay. He should be able to stay on the lead lap with that and try and regroup and continue here. But I guarantee we're probably going to see, at least I'd be betting that we might actually see a few people come down, even though it's been a couple, it's only been about 10 laps since everyone's been on pit road. I guarantee everyone's going to try and come down here and grab some fuel. Maybe
I think it's going to be a mixed bag, and and that's exactly what I was thinking. Is it's going to be a mixed bag, and that's exactly what it was, because there's a lot of decisions of what to do, and it looks like it's about split in middle. Because what this does, like I said, I think the caution brings those that stay out. I think it puts them either in their pit window or B, safer in their pit window. And of course, these guys now that are going to top off here, it also now allows them to go, like I said, maybe about 10 laps further on fuel. So now they can go a little bit more aggressive, and they can put those drivers who didn't pit, that didn't pit, they're going to have to be sweating it for probably about 10 more laps. It's going to be very, very tough for these guys if we get to that pit window. As Taylor Reeves, you say, gets the wave around, gets his lap on back. And so this is gonna be fun to see. But yeah, definitely some strategy calls here. And I think the biggest gainers out of that are going to be the 83 of Chris Chabot, the 23 of Dan Morera, now both showing +5 from their qualifying spots. So they decided to gamble, stay out, and I think this could work out pretty well for them here.
Yeah, the other thing I think on the flip side, just behind them, is the 89 of Nick DeGroot in 9th place now. I think that's actually going to benefit him quite a bit. He's going to be the first car on that extra fuel, so I think that's going to make a bit of a difference for him as far as having that security to go full rich the rest of the race and not have to worry at all about saving any sort of fuel. As you can kind of see, I'm assuming most of these guys up at the front of the pack, putting it, there's a couple different fuel maps that will run more or less fuel. Obviously, fuel map number 8, I believe, is the full rich 100% power, and there's a couple caution maps, I believe, as well for these vehicles. So definitely a lot to play around with. But I know you can also try and clutch things and shut motors off, and there's definitely a lot of ways to save fuel. But as we mentioned, starting from 9th on back, those guys aren't worried about that at all right now. Definitely have to.
It's gonna be. Oh, sorry, but I was gonna say it's gonna be fun to see what the strategies are. Like I said, Taylor Reeves is on pit road getting service done to that 41 now, getting those tires and fuel, because why not? Basically, I don't think we'll see anybody top off unless maybe, like I said, maybe a Taylor Reeves could go ahead and top off with the one to go, or maybe like a Gary Corley or something like that. But this will be intriguing. But again, so far we haven't got the green flag stop that I know I've heard a few drivers kind of chime in and say, oh man, I wanted to get to the green flag stop window. So right now we haven't had that opportunity yet. Like I said, this will be a very intriguing one, because now this is really the first split strategy we've had since we've had the beginning of this race, where like I said, we have, it looks like, about 7 cars that went ahead and stayed out. And then from 8th on back went ahead and came on in here for that pit stop. Or sorry, 8th that stayed out, 9th on back went ahead and pitted. So so about split there, from Jim Herrick on up staying out, Nick DeGroot on back going ahead and hitting pit road there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure what that strategy is going to bring. Obviously, 10 laps, not a ton, but if you run out, with a lap or two to go, or not going to have to pit one more time at least towards the end of this race. Kind of like we mentioned, the 6 and the 89 had to do last week. It's definitely unfortunate for sure, and one unfortunate way to kind of throw away a race win. But yeah, we'll have to see if these guys at the front can gamble and save that fuel. Obviously, the more yellows we have, the more help they're going to get on that front. So have to see who can make it, and I guarantee a lot of these guys up at the front are going to be trying, especially I think Jeff Heisong and Craig Forsyth, they're kind of chopping at the bit to try and make this strategy work, seeing that Nick DeGroot is now back in 9th place. Try and see if they can continue to catch that points leader, as they have been catching him kind of slowly over the last couple weeks here.
Yeah, and saying we mentioned Nick starting in 7th for the initial start, of course, double file restart. Now he's going to restart 9th, single file restart. And again, like I said, so yeah, he's going to be a little heavier on fuel. Tires, I'd say he actually took fuel only, so it was a quick stop for Nick. So tires are equal to the guys around him. But it's going to be more about, I think, just trying to manage the dirty air and putting your car in a place to get around these guys. So yeah, it's definitely, I like the strategy by Nick. Do the opposite of what your championship rivals do, because like you said, if we go green, you can put him, kind of make him sweat some bullets for about 10 laps until the potential green flag pit stops complete. So we'll see what's going to shake out. But like I said, it's going to be Matt Wagner leading this restart once more. Charles Teed, Craig Forsyth going to line up in those top 3 right behind him.
As you see the pace truck off on a pit road, the green flag up in the air. It's going to wave that here in just a second, and we are going to be green underway. Matt Wagner again controlling the point on this restart. See, he doesn't get quite as good of a jump here this time as he did on the last start, but hopefully should still have enough momentum to carry him through the lead down the backstretch. Definitely going to take that inside line and probably try and protect that, as Charles Teed's going to get close to him, but probably not enough to get around him here. So definitely that one thing that you always have to be mindful of. If that second place driver gets a good jump on you, you could be in a world of hurt as far as losing that lead, as it looks like almost on the entry there. Matt Wagner kind of taking a little bit wide. Charles Teed trying to peak low, but didn't quite have the angle or the speed to get there. So Matt Wagner will continue to lead this race, as Charles actually going to get to the bottom this time in 3. Sends it on in there. See if Matt can actually hold him off on the outside, but I think Charles is going to be there. No, not quite. Matt's still back around him, going to keep that lead. So definitely got to have to protect the bottom a lot more if he's going to want to continue to stay in that top spot, because definitely that bottom line has been preferred, as Charles Teed makes his way back to the inside there. He's going to try and make his move into turn number 3 again. Hopefully clear Matt, and Charles Teed, I believe, is going to come off of turn number 4, our leader.
Yeah, it took a couple laps there, but Charles is working. Here comes Craig. He's going to try to squeak underneath there. Couldn't do it. He backs off. He jumps top to try to get that arc into turn number 1 like Matt was doing earlier. But yeah, big move there by Charles to get to the point here. And you see right away goes straight defensive, going to protect that inside line like you talked about, Boomer. I think he knows how important it's going to be. And the other big thing to mention is actually so far in this restart, that's pretty much the only pass for position thus far. Nick DeGroot has not been able to make any ground, still sits in 9th position. So right now he's still having to try to climb his way back up into that top 5 mix. Again, I think these guys know, hey, we got one more stop to make it to the end of this race. We're going to have to kind of pick up the pace and maybe not play as nice as we were earlier. So these guys are definitely, you can see the aggression starting to ramp up from some of these guys, notably Charles Teed wanting to make sure he gets the point and can control this thing, as he's actually stretched away by just a couple tenths.
To see that, but yeah, definitely a lot of action going on here for sure, as definitely a good run for Eric Peterson back up to that starting spot of 5th place. Jeff Heisong back up to his starting position of 4th. Craig Forsyth still continuing to hold that 3rd place last podium spot. Matt Wagner in 2nd and Charles Teed in 1st, but definitely just about halfway through the race here, working on lap number 69 as these guys continue to battle it out. Definitely getting later in the run, still mentioning, one more pit stop, we believe, for everyone in the field. Have to wait and see what these guys at the front of the pack are going to be able to do. Everyone from 8th on forward, has 10 laps less of fuel from everyone, 9th on back. So it's interesting to see that Nick DeGroot actually really hasn't been able to make a charge here late. After that restart, hasn't been able to move forward yet. So I definitely think he's got a little bit of patience back there so far, as now he's working on Jim Herrick in the 40 and the 26 of Dan Morera, those teammates there, trying to move forward a little bit, but definitely not quite the progress that I think he would be hoping to make, but still a lot of race to go. And if these guys only have one more stop left at the back of the pack, definitely not going to bode well for anybody in the front if they do have to pit 2 more times for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and Jim Herrick just had a really tough turn 3 and 4 there. Came into turn number 3 in the 8th position, came out of it in the 11th position. Nick DeGroot got by him, as well as Dan Morera, Luis Gonzalez, and Jim Brooks. Just those guys just completely swallowed him up and actually Nick's got around Dan Morera as well. So he's really starting to turn that wick up now, getting up into 7th position. We mentioned he was kind of stuck in 9th. Now he's making ground. So it seems like just needed a little bit of time to get those tires up or whatever it may be. And he is starting to set sail, maybe letting those guys burn their stuff. As look at that, goes around Christian Bope top, going to get up alongside just about of Jeff Heisong. And yeah, he's starting to make those Nick DeGroot moves we're used to seeing and expect to see. So he is definitely starting to put his mark on this one.
I think he heard me, and he said, I'm going to prove you wrong. And, man, he's absolutely wheeling it on the outside there. See a little bit of traffic there just in front of him. Eric Peterson riding in the 4th position. He's going to try and make that 3rd lane work all the way on the outside. Definitely.
Charles Teed.
Charles Teed is gone. Charles Teed is off the track.
Apron. He's trying to hang on to it, and he's going to drift up. And I think, we'll double check, but I think everybody just escapes him. That's going to bring out the yellow, but oh my goodness, there was a couple close calls there. And once again, turn 4, that car just snapped on him, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a big moment for Teed. But there, I don't know which car it was, but there was a car that was just inches from catching him. I think it may have been Joseph Morales in that number 60, but wow.
Yeah, see if we can watch here. Just kind of gets loose right behind Craig Forsyth here as we watched from Nick DeGroot's in-car camera, kind of, exit stage left, driving through the grass, overcorrects, starts to slide back up to the right, and I think you'll see here in just a moment as he enters the racing surface again, gets a little bit of air as he does. Bit of a close call here.
And watch for just
drivers.
a second more here.
Yeah, he's
watch,
got it
locked. See a yellow or red and white car in just a second.
Gary Corley goes by.
And there's
Joseph Morales just barely getting through. By. I mean, great work by Charles Teed to lock it down. I mean, there isn't a ton after he overcorrected and started to slide back to the right in the grass. There really isn't a ton that you can do other than lock it up. So good on him to keep it locked down, and fortunate that nobody else in the field made contact with him. But we're actually going to see here, it looks like we're going to see a bit of a split. Some of these drivers that pit last on lap 59, pretty much most of them staying out. Nick DeGroot, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Jim Brooks, Gary Corley, and Joseph Morales all staying out here, and the rest of the field last pitting on lap number 49 is going to come down to pit road, starting with the number 6 of Matt Wagner in that number 1 pit stall. As we see, it looks like Craig Forsyth's actually going to get just out ahead of him, so put the 27 ahead of the 6 car, but they will be back starting in 7th place will be Craig Forsyth. So 6 cars that stayed out. I think Charles Teed's probably going to be pitting next time, or this time by, I should say, on the second caution lap. So
surprised at seeing that he didn't come in there in that 50. So I'll have to keep an eye, see if he comes in the second time around. But so we talked about being a 10-lap difference last time. Now it's going to be a 15-lap difference here, Boomer. Pitting at lap number 60 versus now lap 75. And actually for Charles, he pitted last pit on lap 49. So yeah, this is interesting.
I think Charles is potentially going to come back down this time, I would think, or maybe not. But I'm quite surprised that everyone did come and pit that time, because that locked them into, I think, even a worse strategy or a worse situation for having to save fuel, because that's lap 75. You might save 1 or 2 laps here under yellow, but you're still going to have to go almost 50 laps to go. So they still have to pit one more time. I mean, I guess it does help that everyone in the field pretty much only has to pit one more time, but interesting to me that they would willingly give up that track position and kind of flip that script. Interesting for sure. We'll see. I think that's, I would have probably, other than the fact that Charles Teet's probably got flat spotted tires and potentially needs to change those, I would have stuck with his strategy. He's still last pitted on lap 49, so I think by now he can make it on one stop just about as everyone else can. So I don't know. That really surprises me that everyone decided to come down pit road.
Yeah, that's a bit of a surprise, and I love the fact that Nick kind of did the opposite. He kind of was waiting. As soon as they all jumped in, he stayed right. He jumped right back out to take the track position back. So I like the call by Nick and Luis. And we mentioned again the strategy. Like I'm looking at the top 5 right now, and their positions gained. You got +6, +6, +11, +6, and +8 for our top 5 drivers. So I think this is a great call by all of them. And yeah, I'm a little surprised by Teed not pitting, but like I said, he's still in the same boat. Everybody else is still going to have to make one stop. The only caveat I would say on this one is those guys that pitted there at 75, maybe they think, hey, if we get to that green flag pit stop window, we go ahead and we do fuel only. Or again, now they want to flip the script, like I said, and put Nick to Groot now, make him have to sweat for about 10, 15 laps. So we'll see. We still got plenty of time to go here. We're going to restart with 48 to go as Nick DeGroot's going to lead the field.
Definitely, again, the pace truck pulling off Nick DeGroot, making no waste of time, all the way back, or already back on the gas early. Obviously, the leader has controlled the race as soon as the pace vehicle, truck, or car gets off of the racing surface. So Nick wasting no time getting back under green here on lap number 78. He is going to lead Luis Gonzalez Nunez in second place with Jim Brooks, Gary Corley, and Joseph Morales in the top 5. Actually, Charles Teed give him the 5th position as he passes into turn number 3 there. So definitely interesting. Like we mentioned, kind of flipping the script, a little bit of a caution, where obviously we mentioned that Nick DeGroot is kind of on the opposite strategy of his championship rivals Craig Forsyth and Jeff Heisong. I love it. I applaud it. It's definitely one of those things that you can never beat somebody doing the exact same thing they're doing, or at least you'll have a much harder time doing that. But if you can, do the exact opposite of what they're doing, a lot of times you have a much better chance of beating them. So, definitely a lot of applause to all these guys here in the top 5 that managed to actually top 6 that stayed out on that last pit cycle. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Definitely, about 45 laps to go. There's still one more pit stop that everybody needs to make, but depending on when they make it, I think it's going to be the next big exciting factor in the outcome of this race.
Yeah, and the other thing I was about to mention was those top 3 were about to break away from the leaders, or from the rest of the field, I should say, there, because at one point it was about 1.3 seconds or so, and now it's kind of shrunk back to about that 1 second mark. But for a little while, I would say, because again, the magic window in these IR18 Indy cars is about 1.5 seconds. So there was a little bit of time there where some of those guys were probably getting a little nervous, like, hey, I don't know if we're going to catch the field or not here. But they were able to regroup there. And so, like I said, it's still a slight top 3 breakaway, but Charles Teed is still on his way there. He's been closing the gap slowly but surely here in that number 50. And again, not a lot of gains so far from these guys that pitted there right now. 27 of Craig Forsyth still sits in the 7th position, has not been able to find his way around some of those guys that stayed out.
Yeah, the only one that really has moved a ton after that restart has been Charles Teed, and as we mentioned it, Craig Forsyth now getting around Joseph Morales and now going to work on Gary Corley here, but Charles Teed up a couple positions. I was definitely worried for the 50. A lot of times when you take a slide like that, you're going to flat spot in or damage those tires quite a bit, and thankfully, with not a lot of tire wear here in these IndyCar tires, helped a little bit, but would have expected him to have a little bit of a tougher time, continuing to slide those tires. So it'll be interesting to see. He's really the only one that's kind of on a different strategy from everyone else. He last pitted at lap 49. Everyone else in the top 5 last pit on lap 59, so 10 more laps of fuel in those machines. And then, as we mentioned, Craig Forsyth and just about everyone on back last pitting on lap number 75. So think we'd definitely have to see Charles Teed being the first one onto pit road here at some point, but everyone else having a little bit more leeway as far as when they're going to make their final pit stop, which that window for the final pit stop is going to open here in probably about 5 laps, don't you think?
Yeah, that's actually what I was about to bring up next is, the pit window for the final time. Yeah, I think pit window opens, like I said, about 5 more laps. It sounds like they said these guys talked about mid-30s or so being that magic window. And do need to mention Craig Forsyth. He's gotten around Corley. He's now up into fifth. He's about 1.1 seconds behind Charles Teed. But I think we'll start to see that gap start to shrink as he kind of is able to do his thing. But the question is, again, I mean, we haven't got to a green flag window yet. So do you risk possibly short pitting if you have the option to short pit? Or do you just basically run this thing dry and then take maybe bare minimum fuel plus tires, or just fuel only? So it's going to be very interesting to see what the calls are going to be for some of these guys, especially to me, those that pit at 75. Like I said, I kind of a Craig Forsyth to me. I mean, I think a fuel only stop might be something that's definitely something you can put in your arsenal to work with. So that being said, yeah, I mean, Charles Teed, look at this. I mean, he's caught back up to the top three here. He's going to try to work over Jim here for third on the inside line there. But man, like I said, with that big slide, but that says this is going to be a sales pitch for Firestone tires for these guys, because I mean, look what I did, and I'm still running fast lap times in that number 50 machine here.
Yeah, I am definitely impressed by Charles Teed. He has shown a lot of pace all night long, and he's up I think at least 2 or 3 spots there since that restart. Definitely applaud him for making a mistake, obviously, but he's gonna get to the inside here of Jim Brooks, and I believe he's gonna take away this 3rd place. Might not happen fully until either the backstretch or off of he clears him into 1. Jim Brooks lets him go, and he will clear him. So yeah, definitely a hard work by the 50 to get back up there. No harm, no foul, and love to see that he's able to make that really quick recovery. But everyone else that he was really running around, Craig Forsyth, Matt Wagner, Eric Peterson, Jeff Heison, those guys that were up in the top 5, they're still stuck back in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th on back. So definitely that split strategy of the guys that last pitted on lap 75, most recently at lap 75, definitely losing a lot of track position on that. Obviously, Craig Forsyth now back up to the 5th position, but definitely will be interesting to see. I know you mentioned earlier about, do you take that risk of short pitting and then, a yellow coming out and you getting trapped a lap down and having to take a wave around and losing all your track position? I would definitely, knowing how this race has gone so far, if I were driving tonight, I would be wanting to stay out as long as I possibly can. So who knows, if a yellow does not come out, I think that gives the advantage to these guys that are leading the pack right now. But if it does come out and someone, we're in the middle of a pit cycle, I think absolutely advantage goes to Craig Forsyth and Matt Wagner, those guys that pitted last on lap 75. But we'll have to wait and see. Definitely still a lot of time left with about 32, 33 laps here to go. So just about anything can happen as we're going to get into...
It's like Teed's pitting here.
Okay, first car in for their final pit stop is going to be the 50 of Charles Teed. See if we can watch him. The first green flag pit stop of the night, gets down cleanly, down to pit road speed. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely can tell. I think he definitely gave up a little bit of time just to make sure he safely got on a pit road. But now the question is, do we see any response from this? And like I said, I don't think we do. I think these guys are going to stick with what they've been doing. I think for Teed pitting at 32 to go, it's probably going to be 4 tires and fuel because he's going to need enough fuel anyway to get to that window. But I think we might see those. I'm going to watch Craig Forsyth. He's the one I'm really kind of keeping an eye on because I think he's going to base what he does based on what Nick DeGroot, Luis Gonzalez, and company do. If they pit, he sees it was a long enough stop, that's probably a 4-tire pit stop. Maybe I come in the next time and I take just a splash of fuel to make it to the end, where I can maybe then leapfrog them on pit road, maybe break that draft by a couple seconds, because I think that's what it would take to have a chance to safely win this race. So first things first, though, he's got to get around Jim Brooks. There, actually, as I said, Jim a little bit of connectivity issues there in that 51, but he comes back on track. But like I said, Charles Teed is 1 lap down as they run. And it looks like he's kind of cycled in here just off on his own. It looks like Joseph Morales is calling in. Here, actually, Jim Brooks pitting as well in the 51. So windows starting to open for these guys.
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite all-time jokes from Parks and Rec, Leslie, I type your symptoms into Google, and it says you may have network connectivity issues, but Jim Brooks is back and on pit road safely. Like you mentioned, probably a little bit of, a safe pit entrance for a lot of these guys, trying to make sure that they don't cause a caution, because we've seen so many drivers, even, some of our championship leaders come down pit road, spin the car out on that transition to the banking and absolutely lose it and cause a caution. And a lot of times we've seen contact from that too. So definitely good to see. We've got at least 3 or 4 pit stops now. Gary Corley down, Jim Brooks down, Joseph Morales.
Leaders in time by watch Nick DeGroot.
Okay, and Charles T have made their stop. So actually, Nick DeGroot is going to answer here. He's going to actually pit just after the rest of the front of the field here. Definitely interesting. I would not have expected him to pit this early, but it looks like everyone's having a pretty easy time getting down to pit road. So that's going to actually cycle the lead out to Luis Gonzalez Nunez. It's going to put Nick DeGroot, Gary Corley, Jim Brooks, Charles Teed, Joseph Morales down one lap as they have already made their pit stop for the rest of the race. But we mentioned Luis Gonzalez Nunez now on the point. He's kind of on an island by himself. We got about a 1.3 second lead over Craig Forsyth, who has about a 0.6 of a second lead over Matt Wagner in third. Eric Peterson and Jeff Heisong currently round out your top 5. Jim Herrick, Chris Jabot, William Gunn, and Dan Morera are your top 9, and the drivers who have not made their final pit stop of the race.
Yeah, Luis is coming in this time, but he just called it out.
Ooh, got a little loose. Still getting loose, but nope, he's okay. He's going to make it down. Make it down safely. One of the things to note is you see those yellow cones, those 2 yellow cones across, and then you see that yellow line behind it. That yellow line is I believe, the commitment cone. So you have to be inside of that yellow line of that orange box on the outside to be on pit road by then. But pit road pace speed does not start until the yellow cones. So you've got a little bit of a leeway getting onto pit road before you actually have to hit that, I believe it's 35 mile an hour pit road speed limit.
Yeah, so far so good. Of those that pitted, Nick is still showing as the first car, and now Craig Forsyth, he's just keyed up. Craig's gonna come in and pit. So this is, again, they, I believe, can go further, but they're opting to go ahead and short pit. I'm wondering if maybe there's been some pace fall off or not, but here comes Craig. Oh, and he's just going to straddle the line, but he hangs on to it there. And that is the scary part right there, is when you kind of are running that seam, that's where these cars get very upset. But so far, so good for these guys. Everybody's hitting their marks nicely. But right now, it looks like the net winner of pit road still is that number 89 of Nick DeGroot. Luis Gonzalez is going to cycle out now second, just getting around Jim Brooks. But so far, no strategies. I really thought somebody was going to maybe do fuel only here. Actually, I'm watching. Nope, Craig car pops up. That's 4 tires and fuel for him. So now Matt Wagner leads this thing. And I think here, Boomer, I'm going to watch lap times. That's going to be the next thing to keep an eye on to see what the difference is. Because last time by Nick DeGroot ran a 24.61. Matt Wagner a 25.08. So there is some speed in these fresh tires, it looks like. And that might be what these drivers saw. It's like, hey, these guys are going a little faster on these new tires compared to us. So we'll see. Well, I'm going to watch Matt one more time this time around. It's 25.05 for him. And again, Nick DeGroot, that last time by was a 24.61 once again. Oh, caution is out, though.
Yellow
this changes everything.
There it is. Oh, Craig Forsyth involved, it looks like. See if we can get a view of that. Man, trouble for one of our championship favorites. Getting back out onto the racetrack here. As he's getting up to speed, you see Charles Teed. He's going to merge right in front of Charles Teed. Gets down to the inside lane. I wonder if he's going to touch the apron here. And he does. Yeah, that transition in the baking, wow. A fairly rare mistake from the 27 machine, unfortunately, of Craig Forsyth. He's probably going to back it into the wall here pretty hard. Lots of contact on that left-hand side. Man, he's definitely going to have to use up a fast repair here as he's actually jumping back to the pits. Quite a bit of damage on the left side of that car, unfortunately, for Craig Forsyth.
Yeah, it looks like he tried to limp it back to the pits, but I believe, unfortunately, he wound up having to take a tow. Yeah, that car just was not drivable, and so he did all he could, but that's going to be a heartbreaker for him. Like we mentioned, he had been doing a great job of catching up on the field. But yeah, so here they come, though. Those drivers that stayed out, this is the break they were looking for. They wanted to go long, and some, like I said, some blinked and they saw Nick DeGroot pit. Others decided, you know what, we're going to hang out. We'll see if we get that break. And this time, though, it wasn't a mistake getting on the pit road. Like I said, it was just for Craig. He just wasn't fully up to speed to be able to kind of get the move that he would normally be able to do that entry into 3. So I think he just was a little slower than he expected to be. But now for these guys all on pit road, I don't see anything other than 4 tires and fuel happening for these drivers. And also, of course, gaining plenty of track position in there as well. So this is a great opportunity for Matt Wagner. But, of course, we still got, we're going to restart with just about 15 to go. It's going to be on from here.
Yeah, definitely. So you're going to see all these guys at the front of the pack here going to be electing to take the wave around. That's their right. They are ahead of the leader. So the leader will be allowed to catch up to the pace truck, and everyone in front of him, in between the pace truck, will be able to take that wave around, get back to the back of the pack. And this is something that we mentioned, or at least I believe I mentioned earlier. Like, I was really surprised that these guys are pitting early. Obviously, Craig Forsyth, unfortunately, bringing out the caution, but people like Nick DeGroot, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Jim Brooks, who pitted early, had more time to stay out late, but elected to pit based off of the move made by Charles Teed to come down pit road first. And unfortunately, I think that's going to bite them, and definitely a huge break for this guy on screen right now, the number 6 of Matt Wagner. He's going to take back the point spot. Jeff Heisong is going to take over second place. Eric Peterson having a good run still again tonight, back up into the top 3, back up into the top 5 now in third. Jim Herrick improving to 4th, and Chris Jabot into 5th place. William Gunn into 6th, Dan Morera into 7th, before we get back to Nick DeGroot, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, and Jim Brooks to round out the top 10. And it actually looks like Nick DeGroot's actually going to come back down pit road this time, so I wonder if he had an issue.
No, I think Nick was the wave around car, so he didn't have to wait for the one to go to wave around. So he's just basically getting a free pit stop here in that number 89. So he's just going to grab some tires and then jump back out on track here and do what he can, as the rest of the field is going to have to get waved around that number 6 machine, or I should say wait for the white one to go and then go on by the pace car to get themselves back on the lead lap. So no, that was a good strategy by Nick, because at that point he's going to be in the same spot no matter what. Might as well get some fresher tires on that thing. That way you're kind of at any advantage you can get is what you're going to need here. So it's a good call by Nick on that one. But yeah, now he's going to have to try to work his way back up through the field once more. And now we know here, Boomer, there's no fuel saving, no nothing. All bets will be off here. We're going to restart this thing with, I believe, 16 to go. Unfortunately, Craig Forsyth will lose multiple laps. So, but I think the big storyline you just talked about, though, Jeff Heisong, now he restarts in second position. And again, Craig obviously was the driver chasing him down there for third in points. But now he's got a couple spots ahead of Nick DeGroot here. He's going to obviously hope for Nick to have some troubles getting through the field here. And he's going to have to try to see if he can sneak around that 6 car, Matt Wagner, because he wants to close that gap down on Nick DeGroot for that championship here.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for mentioning that. Definitely a smart move by the 89. Me not paying attention that he was the wave around car, or the lucky dog, but you'll see here as the 14 and the rest of the field at the back is going to wave back around to be on the lead lap. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. I know that 18 car is going to be chomping at the bit to try and get around that 6, but Matt Wagner has had an up and down season, definitely had a lot of chances to lead laps, but has fallen short of the race win a few times here. So this season so far, he is definitely hungry for that first win of the season. 17 laps to go, as you mentioned. We'll be getting the green flag and flying under 16 to go at the stripe this next time by. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. He's not going to give up that spot willingly, and we'll see how far that 89 of Nick DeGroot can continue to come back up the field. Obviously, we saw him, working high, wide, and handsome on the outside, making a lot of moves early on in the race, but definitely all bets are off. No one is saving fuel. Everybody's ready to go, and it's going to be a battle to the end of this one.
Yeah, now there's no strategy. There's no saving. There's no nothing to maybe try to stretch it a couple extra laps under green. Yeah, these guys are going to be going after tooth and nail. And again, like you mentioned, Nick restarted 9th in the previous one. Now he's going to restart in 8th. So he's still going to have a lot of work to cut out for him here. So, and again, like I said, the aggression is only going to ramp up here. So it's going to be Matt Wagner leading Jeff Heisong. Pace truck is off, and Matt is down and away as we get back to green. Craig Forsyth is back out on track, but unfortunately 3 laps down as we get back to green here.
Up through the gears is the 6 machine, the red and black machine of Matt Wagner. Should have a nice gap to Jeff Heisong. Jeff's going to probably try and get to him to the outside here down into turn number 3, but not quite going to make it. Matt is going to be able to continue to hold on to that point spot. A good restart for him as the field kind of a little bit of a gap here grown on the field. I'm sure, in the coming laps, they'll definitely start to tighten up just a little bit, but everyone's got about a half a second or more to the driver in front of them. A little bit of space out on that restart. Definitely does not bode well for the 89, who's trying to get back up to the front, but Matt Wagner and Jeff Heisong definitely loving to see this right now. I know that 18 is definitely going to be chomping at the bit, as we mentioned, to get back up to the 6 and try to make something happen with 14 laps to go here. A reminder here for the IndyCar Series, there are no green-white checkers here on Green-White Checkered TV. Those are only for the super speedway racing we see on Thursday nights and Sunday nights here on Green-White Checkered TV. But races will end under caution if we get a caution with 3 or 4 laps to go. So racing to be in that point spot for the end. Obviously, last week we saw caution end the race 2 laps early. So as this field bunches back up, gonna definitely look to see who can make those moves. And Nick DeGroot is already setting the fastest lap of the race at 24:33, over a tenth of a second faster than anybody's fastest lap of the race tonight. You can definitely tell he's hungry, running on that outside, making another move around Chris Jabot there, trying to get back to that top spot.
Yeah, up to 6 now after restarting 8. So he's made a couple of gains. He got around Dan Marrera, got around Chris Jabot right there. A little further back, I was watching Charles Teed made a big move on Jim Brooks and was able to hang on to the car, but wasn't able to hold on to the position. But yeah, Nick is on his way. Like I said, he's running that 3rd lane, as is Dan Marrera. These guys are, like I said, they're leaving nothing to chance right now. For Jeff Heisong, I mean, there's only so much he can do right now. You can see he's got a little bit of a buffer right now between himself and Eric Peterson sitting in 3rd there, about that half second back. So this is great for Jeff Heisong. He can just kind of cruise and kind of just try to set Matt up and find, okay, what's going to work? How do I get around this number 6 machine? And without any pressure of Eric Peterson behind him. But it's going to be probably pretty short-lived, because these guys are starting to close up on them, as William Gunn is going to be in his 5th currently, with Nick DeGroot starting to chase him back down. But so far, Matt's looking really good. You can see he's breaking the draft, running the inside line, then drifts up to get the arc into 3. So he's not going to roll over on this one. Like I said, he's going to fight hard here, because we're down to 10 to go. It's going to be single digits this time by, with 9 to go. And like you said, at this point, again, you have to make moves. Caution's out.
Oh, caution, yellow flag.
Oh, Nick DeGroot's involved, our championship leader.
Oh, no. Looks like William Gunn, Chris Jabot potentially involved here. We'll take you back to the action on the replay.
Yeah, I think a number of drivers caught up in this one, unfortunately. We'll have to go back and take a look to see what's happened here. It looks like, oh yeah, out of turn number 4 with William Gunn getting loose.
Only damage is going to... I think the only damage there is going to be from the 89 and the 14 there. Apologies, had some mic troubles as well, but yeah, had some troubles getting that replay started, but looked like the 14 got way loose here. You can see definitely collecting the 89. I think really the only damage that you saw was these two here. Is Chris Jabot's going to just barely miss us on the outside. He's going to get loose, but he should be able to slide through the grass and be okay. Dan Marrera just barely skating through. Luis Gonzalez Nunez okay. And we mentioned Jim Brooks sliding through the grass there. He should be okay there as well. So really the only damage I would think from the 89 machine and the 14, but they're definitely going to have to head back to the pits and try to repair those machines.
Yeah, and so Nick's already went on pit road. Took the fast repair based on the time of pit stop. Same thing for Joseph Morales, William Gunn. It also gives Craig one of his 3 laps back, now back to 2 down. Again, I mean, unfortunately, it's going to sit him where he is. But now what we're going to have here, though, Boomer, right now we're sitting at, 8 to go here. We're going to have a restart here, probably a shootout with about 5 or so to go in this one, if I'm not mistaken. And so this is going to be tough here for some of those guys to try to get some of that track position back. I mean, you mentioned Charles Teed when he had his big slide and he stayed out and was able to gain spots even. I think some guys were noticing that, because, I mean, look at Chris Jabot, he stayed out, Jim Brooks stayed out. Some of those guys that had some pretty wild slides, they said, you know what, I want this track position. I don't want to give up any more positions. I mean, Chris is still holding on to a top 5 spot with him staying out there. So I think that's a great decision by the 83 machine. So yeah, so this is going to be pretty wild here. And like I said, this is now where Jeff Heisong, again, you never want bad luck for any of your opposition, but I mean, he's got to be looking at his chops now, thinking, man, if I could get out of this thing with a win or maybe a top 2, top 3. And if Nick stays outside the top 10, this would be a great points line for me to have a chance to get, and we get to this closing stage of the championship.
Yeah, definitely. I think Jeff Heisong's pretty comfortable with where he's at, with where Nick DeGroot and Craig Forsyth are at. But everybody wants to win, right? And he's definitely going to be pressing that number 6 machine hard. But I know Matt Wagner is going to be doing everything he can to try and win this race. But definitely going to be an exciting finish. We're going to, like you said, should be getting going here with about 5 or 6 laps to go. So should be a shootout to the end if nothing else crazy happens.
Yeah, what this also does do is this should be the final restart as well, Boomer. So from here again, with no green white checkers here with the IndyCar series, I believe at this point this would be pretty much final restart, because right now we're at 7 to go, and yeah, we'll get I believe the 1 to go. This time I was 6 to go, so yeah, restart with 5 more, and yeah, I think from there just wouldn't be enough laps to get a restart. So it might be tight if they have a quick yellow, which again we don't want. We want these guys to run a green to the end. But yeah, I think to me this is pretty much for Matt here. He's got to have the restart of his life, and then just make sure 0 mistakes, make sure everything is set right. No risking fuel. Like at this point, don't even save fuel. Just you switch that car to map 1 now. Just have everything ready to go. Your weight jackers, your ARBs, just do everything you would need to have for pretty much an outright sprint to the finish here.
Yeah, definitely. There is, nobody will be running anything but full rich right now. That map number 1 going all the way. Everyone's made their final pit stops. All that stuff is gone. We don't have anything to worry about there. Pretty much the only thing you got to worry about is going for the win. And now Matt Wagner has that opportunity here. He's going to try and see what he can do. Obviously, he went early on that last restart, so you'll have to, play those mind games. Is he going to try and take off early again, or is he going to change it up? It's always, if Jeff Heisong can time that, if he can time that start very well, then obviously Matt Wagner could be in trouble entering turn number 3 down the backstretch, because Jeff Heisong is going to have that run to catch him. So we'll have to wait and see what he can do. But as you mentioned, Pace Truck has the lights off. They are going to be getting ready to go back under green. The number 6 machine, our pole sitter of Matt Wagner, is going to lead the field here. You'll see flagmen swapping out the yellow flag for the green flag, and we'll have to wait and see when Matt decides to go on this restart.
Looks like he's waiting a little longer, and now he grabs the gear and goes. Again, now you got to watch for the accordion effect behind, but so far, no, we got trouble in the back there. The 50 and the 7 got into the back of one another there. That was the accordion. Everybody was getting antsy there. And they did make contact, okay, but they're rolling, so no caution. But both those drivers significant damage as the field heads down the backstretch.
Any yellow that comes out, we would think would end the race at this point. So this is definitely a race for the lead here. Matt Wagner now pulling out to about a 0.4 of a second advantage over Jeff Heisong, over Eric Peterson, Jim Herrick, and Chris Jabot in the top 10. Matt trying to win it from the pole position tonight with 4 laps to go. He's got a little bit of a comfortable lead, but I guarantee he's trying to break the draft so that Jeff Heisong cannot get back to him. Eric Peterson having a good run now back up into the podium placings. And, it should be an exciting battle to the end here. 3 laps to go.
Yeah, I went back and looked. It was just that accordion effect, like we talked about. These guys knew what was on the line, and one of them, I say, just that accordion happened. One scoots a little forward than the other scoots, and unfortunately, that's how it ends. And so, unfortunately, it's an early retirement for Charles Teed. Makes it so far. Was doing so well, just to have the heartbreaker there at the very end. But yeah, like I said, Boomer, coming around here, 2 to go. And Matt is holding a very pretty wheel still so far, so he's doing what he needs to do. And Nick DeGroot still is currently sitting in the 8th position. Again, runs the fastest lap of the race, though, so it's not for lack of effort right now. But he's got some very difficult drivers in front of him to get around right now. Notably, right now, Luis Gonzalez Nunez right in front of him. He's a very quick driver, as we know, as we're coming around for 3 and 4 here to try to take the white flag.
This time by the number 6 machine of Matt Wagner is going to take the white flag. Not much of a challenge from the 18 of Jeff Heisong. About 0.2 of a second gap here is going to close up to about a tenth and a half here into turn number 1 and 2. See what he can do on the high side, but Matt Wagner is going to hold it to the bottom. Going to try and break the draft as much as he possibly can. Going to take the low line into turn number 1, or turn number 3. Jeff Heisong is going to be around the outside. I think it's going to be too little too late, though. Out of turn number 4, it's going to be the first win of the season for the number 6 machine of Matt Wagner.
Yeah, Jeff gave it a great shot there again, but yeah, Matt was able to keep that momentum built up out of turn number 4 to hold on to that win, and he's going to be a very, very happy driver in that number 6 machine. You see the fireworks going off there in turn number 3, and yeah, so indeed for Nick DeGroot was not able to capitalize there. Still winds up in 8th position, but we can't take the story away though from our race winners. Like you said, he's been going for this. He's talked to us about how just much he's wanted to get these wins, as you see him celebrate here on the front stretch.
Yeah, definitely a long time coming. Matt has had some very great efforts as far as getting to the front, starting out front, and having something go wrong or a caution not fall his way. A few mistakes here and there that every driver makes, but Matt has been very strong without a ton of great finishes to show for it. Obviously, interviewed him a couple times for a couple podiums he's had so far this season, but his first win, I know this is going to be an exciting interview with the 6 machine for sure.
Yeah, he's always fun to chat with. But yeah, when you get a race win as well, he's going to be even more so. So it's going to be a great interview to get. But man, I mean, a great points line for Jeff Heisong. Of course, he would have loved to get the win tonight. But again, knowing that your closest rival in the points finish in 8th for the guy in front of you, and then 13th for the guy behind you, that's a great night for that number 18 as well, Jeff Heisong. But before we get to those two guys, we got to get to our 3rd place finisher here, and that's going to be the number 36 of Eric Peterson here, Boomer. So he kind of had that Eric Peterson night, as he was quick, was up front, but stayed out of trouble, kind of kept himself out of harm's way, and able to get himself a great result tonight, finishing in 3rd. So let's pull on Eric Peterson over here. And Eric, it was definitely a different one tonight. We did see at some point we had the trouble with the pit stops, but surprisingly, it wasn't pit road entry. It was the pit road exit, or actually not even the exit. I should say turn 3, kind of building speed back up for one of the drivers. But never really were able to get that green flag pit stop in tonight, which for you was actually kind of a good thing, because you're able to kind of jump in front of those guys with the pit strategy, staying out long. So I think the big question for me was that towards that last long green flag run of the race, where a lot of driver leaders start pitting, you kind of had that mixed bag. We saw Craig jump in. You decided to stay out there. Was it tempting to jump in? Or, I mean, what was your thought process of what to do there?
Yeah, I think that was like with 50 to go or 51 to go or something like that. I think I came in and pit, but right before that was 60 some to go. I know I saw Nick jump in, and I just stayed out and kind of got snookered. But hey, it worked out to our advantage with Wagner and Heisong and I staying up front. But yeah, at that point, fuel wasn't an issue. It was just tires, if you wanted tires or not. And by having Nick do that pit at 67, to see him come up through the field quickly like that, and right before that caution, he was, I think, right on my tail. So he came up through the field nicely. So we knew that tires were going to work. So.
Yeah, definitely a great opportunity for you there. Kind of that caution falling the right way for you towards the end, and able to give you that track position to stay up there with the rest of the field with Matt Wagner and Jeff Heisong. But yeah, take us through. I mean, there's a lot of cautions tonight. Did it make it tougher to kind of try and play out, a full green flag run, and that fuel strategy that comes with that?
We were running probably around 39 to 42 laps on a full tank, I think is what my calculator said, but I don't, we never got there to see. So, but it was dicey out there. I mean, my hands are tired. I was gripping the wheel too tight, and it was really loose on the first restarts. We were pretty far negative on the weight jacker to get the car to go through turns 1 and 2, and then really positive on the weight jacker to get it turn in 3 and 4. And then after that, it was just stay in the draft and see if you can just stay with these guys. But for most of the fuel runs, I was running map 1 for the first half, and then I changed to map 3 the second half once I could stay in their draft. And once tires got worn out a little bit, it was easier to stay with them.
Yeah, it was a really, and I think that's something we mentioned too, is it didn't look like it was just a straightforward, easy thing for you guys tonight. You guys had to work really hard through obviously the very, very difference 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, of course 3 and 4 being the trickiest of the turns, just with the fact that you have to slow that thing down to make that the reconfigured turns there. But yeah, I mean, there was some pretty aggressive racing and some big moves as well being made by some of those drivers. Were you finding that you had to make adjustments kind of depending on where you were on track, or is it just all more about aero depending on where those guys in front of you were? Because obviously 3 and 4, I mean, we saw a lot of different movements from where drivers were on track to kind of find that clean air, if you will.
Yeah, the car didn't really push all that bad. It actually was loose, which was nice. This was probably the most fun set that we've driven all year, at least for me. The you could hold it wide open in sixth gear in the draft behind someone, maybe just put a half a wing out with the settings right, with the roll bars and the jacker right. You could get around turn one wide open, and then just going down the backstretch, pull right up on them. And if you just let off the gas and I downshift from sixth to fifth, the car just rolled right in, get down that yellow line, and the arrow really wasn't an issue until you were coming off of up over that hill in turn four. It's just almost like there's a hill there, and the car gets light, and it got a little squirrely a couple times, and that's where Charles got loose coming off of four and just spun it through the grass. But you could definitely feel it. You could definitely feel it getting loose. So I was going into turn three with positive weight checker and coming out of turn four, dropping it down, putting more negative weight jacker in it just to get it so I wouldn't get loose. So yeah. It was a constant battle with the weight jacker and the buttons today.
Yeah, we had a feeling that a lot of you guys up at the top, or really everyone in the league, was going to be playing with those settings quite a bit. You guys at the top of this league, it takes quite a bit to do that, and definitely a hard-earned podium tonight, and want to congratulate you for that, and want to give you a chance to tell the world who you want to thank for this podium finish tonight.
I definitely want to thank you guys at Green White Checker for putting on such a great broadcast. It's always fun to watch after we get done here. Thank my mom and dad down in South Carolina for watching. Obviously the guys in the Discord channel, Jeff, Charles, Gary. We had Craig in there tonight too for a little bit. Just a great help, chit-chatting during the race and different strategies on what to do. So that helped out tremendously. And of course, our different sponsors that we have for the league, and it's good to see Jim back out here, Jim Brooks. So it's good to see him out here again too. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully they're doing okay in South Carolina with all the storms coming through there. But yeah, congratulations again.
Definitely. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, that is our third place finisher of Eric Peterson. Like I said, a great run for him, and did everything he needed to do to get in that position to have a chance at it. So now what we got to do, Boomer, we got to bring our runner up here tonight, who, in saying with doing so, was able to give himself a great points night as well. And that is going to be the number 18 of Jeff Hyasong. So we're going to drag him on over here, because I'm going to get the points situated here. That way we can kind of explain where he is at in points. But first, we got to first talk about the race, though, Jeff, bringing it home in second. So you were doing everything you could there, but it looked like Matt was definitely not going to give you any easy opportunities there. I mean, just take us through it. And was it one of those ones where it's like, don't take a gamble and take a risk because you just know how good of a race you've got going when you've got your competition outside the top five there?
Yeah, it was also hard to get close to him with the dirty air and the way the track was running there at the end. Without the caution, I don't know if I'd have been able to get closer and make a move. That would have probably been a better chance than I had at the end there. But Matt was pretty much the class of the field there.
We definitely saw a lot of guys, cautions coming out at different times, kind of flip the field at a bunch of different times. But before the one after the long green flag run, you were electing to stay out, and it seemed to benefit most of you guys that were able to stay out the longest, because we did have another caution that kind of flipped the stage, and then you guys were able to make your final pit stop. Was that something that you were kind of planning on or expecting?
Once that last caution came out, or second to last, I should say, I was going to pit anyways just to get in there, get new tires. I know Nick and the guys had done it the one before, and I saw the progress he made, so I was kind of just shot in the dark, get tires, see if I can drive back up here and get it going with fresh rubber, because it got tricky to drive after a while.
Yeah, it was a great run though for you tonight, Jeff. And yeah, the points thing. Say I've updated the points, so right now it's based on, of course, our top 8 out of the 9 results. And so with your run tonight, that puts you now just 7 points behind Nick Drew. Because I say we're 9 down, we're 3 to go here. I mean, I say obviously Nick's definitely one of those ones that you guys kind of put your eye on. You kind of point at him like, yeah, he's going to be one of the guys to beat every season. So I mean, so you're getting to a great spot here. I mean, are there tracks looking forward where you say, okay, yeah, these are going to be some strong races for me, or are you just kind of taking everything a race at a time? I mean, what's the mindset going into these final 3 with Michigan, a lot of New Hampshire, and of course finished up at Indy?
Right now I'm just taking it one stint at a time. I can't look past that, otherwise I'll get myself in trouble. And then yeah, looking at the schedule, what's left. Excited for the last 3 tracks, and of course I know that Nick is a beast at Indy, so it's going to take everything in our power to get it done there.
Yeah, definitely going to be quite a bit to get around that 89. But do you think you have what it takes to happen to get around him and maybe beat him in that championship race this season?
We're definitely going to give it a go. Last week kind of hurt my chances, but we're still going to do everything we can to try and get that car in front of his at the end of the season in points.
All right, well, we'll definitely be watching close and hope to see you to do it. Definitely going to be exciting no matter what as we get to the end of the season. As we mentioned, 3 races remaining. Yeah, definitely want to focus on that second place position that you had tonight. Definitely hard earned, and want to give you a chance to tell the world what do you want to say thanks for that second place finish.
Big shout out to Matt. Great win, great drive there. Peterson getting on the podium. Yeah. Other than that.
Cool. Good deal.
All right. Well, yeah, good job tonight, Jeff. Like I said, great job so far this season. So you got a few more to go. Looking forward to see. Like I said, we'll definitely be rooting you on over there with us. I'd love to see you and Nick battle out there. We'll see if Craig's able to creep back in there. Obviously tonight kind of set him back a little bit, but you can never tell with these guys. But go enjoy this one, man. We'll chat soon. So great job tonight, Jeff. All right, that is our runner up here. Boomer is that number 18 of Jeff Heisong. So I feel like there's some guy that we have to talk to. I heard he may have won a race or something, if I remember right. So I'm not sure. We'll have to double check, make sure the admins have gone through and checked, make sure there wasn't any illegal ballast in the car or anything like that. But pending official confirmation, our race winner in that number 6 machine, Matt Wagner, getting the win tonight. And I'm gonna, like I said, Boomer, we're talking about this is probably feels like one of the biggest monkeys off his shoulders, because he's been so close so many times this season, but just ends in frustration or heartache. But Matt, how are you feeling now?
I'm relieved. It's been it feels so good to be back in victory lane. And like I said, I was toward the beginning of the season, I was looking up stats and all that, and how many wins do I have, and not that many. And the last time I won was actually October of last year, and it's October the 4th. Funny how that it happens, but oh, it feels so good.
Definitely always great to get back to victory lane. I know you've had, I mean, can you count how many times you've had something go wrong where I know like last week at Fontana, you were, towards the class of the field at the front of the pack, but managed to, to run out of gas or not have enough gas, have to pit one last time when the rest of the field didn't. Can you think through how many other times this season you felt like you would have earned that win but didn't get it?
Oh, there's been plenty of times. There's been the Dover race where I had the fuel race one, and then the caution comes down, and then there I'm stuck a lap down. There's nothing you can do, and I tried to get back up toward the lead, and then I didn't hold the bottom, and that was my mistake. I let that one get away, and oh God, there's been so many instances where I've made so many mistakes, and sometimes mostly bad luck, and that bad luck is, I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah,
And
definitely a lot we mentioned, a lot of cautions not falling your way, or a lot of pit cycles. You've had speed all season long, but given going through all that, what you mentioned, it's got to make this even sweeter to finally get that win this season after you've been so close and had so many great efforts as far as qualifying and racing goes.
Oh yeah. Speaking about the racing with Charles Dean in the beginning, good racing, Charles. I really respect that, and I had a hell of a time. I wish you wouldn't have crashed. I wish you were back up here with me racing. Probably. It's coming for him. To get a podium tonight for him, it's makes that much more sweeter.
I apologize there. I had some technical difficulties on my end, and I think some of that last part of your response there got cut off, Matt. So I apologize, but we're back now. But yeah, definitely exciting for you. I guess was there anything that you might have wanted to touch back on in your last points there that might have gotten cut off in the audio?
Oh, did you hear about me talking about Charles Teed?
No, please repeat. I apologize.
Okay, I will repeat that. So, me and Charles had a great race at the beginning of the start of the race. I wish he wouldn't have gotten involved in a wreck, and I had to go back and look at it. Me being an admin, it's well, that and to Eric Peterson to get a podium, and Jeff, get his first 2 wins of the season. That makes it pretty good for my win here. Me and those 3 guys be up in the podium. That's pretty good, and I'm pretty happy.
No, it was a great race tonight, Matt. So we don't want to keep it too long because we want to let you go celebrate with your friends and your teammates and family and all that. So, man, great job tonight, man. And definitely before we let you go, I want to give you the floor. Any thanks and shouts for that win tonight?
Oh, okay. First and foremost, this is my first time streaming a league race, and shout out to my stream out there who was watching. I really do appreciate you guys coming here and saying hello and your thank yous and all that. My parents were watching, and also very important person I want to thank is Joshua Tucker. I know you're out there. I really thank you for your insight and teaching me the tricks of the trade of this car. We'll go more further into detail. I really do appreciate you very much. Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Gael, once again, great broadcast with Boomer. Boomer, love a Boomer. Y'all take care. Have a good one.
You too, Matt. Congratulations again. All right, well, that was definitely an exciting battle that we had throughout the night. Definitely, like we mentioned, it was going to be, as always, exciting. Definitely a lot of fun on these 1.5 mile tracks where you get a lot of that drafting action, a lot of close pack racing, kind of similar to super speedways in some aspects, but still also a very fast, very short track. Not a short track per se, but a very, a quick track for these drivers to get around, a lot of concentration, and saw a lot of mistakes. Honestly, just a tough track. Almost none of the mistakes coming onto in and out of pit road like we've seen most of the season, but I mean just genuine racing mistakes, getting loose. Sometimes it's fun to watch where you can actually see that these guys are actually human and they do actually make mistakes while they're actually out on the field trying to go as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, no, it was a great one tonight. Like I said, this was a very quick race. Like you said, these guys, the lap times these guys do are just insane how fast they are. But man, I say we're down to it here. We got the final quarter of the race left, and I say we're gonna go back to the sister track of Auto Club with Michigan next week, and then finish it off with the very tricky oval of New Hampshire, and of course the place to finish up an IndyCar season at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Like I said, 7 points between Nick DeGroot, Jeff Heisong, Craig falls to 50 points behind them after the drop week is included. Right now, again, this includes their top 8 out of their overall 9 races. but at the end of the season, it'll be their top 11 out of 12. So kind of everybody gets that one breather, if you will. So it's going to be fun, Boomer. I'm looking forward to it, and say it's been great to see a couple new winners this season. Like I said, Matt Wagner tonight, Jim Herrick last week. So we'll see if we can kind of continue this trend over the next 3.
Yeah, definitely. The tale of the beginning of the season was pretty much the, it was almost exclusively the Nick and Jeff show. Really, the only guys that had won, I think, through the first 5 races, and then Craig Forsyth rattled off 2 wins there. So definitely unfortunate to see, Craig have a bad night and kind of lessen his chances at the championship, but there's still a 2-horse race in that battle. Obviously, Jeff Heisung getting closer to Nick DeGroot, and, with a 7-point gap and 3 races left, there's still anything absolutely that can happen. So will definitely be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, love seeing these first time winners for this season, and Matt Wagner and the 40 last week. It's always cool to see some new blood up at the front of the pack, and as we mentioned for Matt, definitely hard earned and well deserved, and a little bit of a long time coming with how well he's been able to start races this season. So I'm going to take a second to go through the rest of the finishing placings for this evening. Obviously, we already talked to our podium placings: Matt Wagner, Jeff Heisong, and Eric Peterson. Jim Herrick, last week's winner, recovering very nicely for a 4th place finish. So 2 top 5s in a row for him. That's definitely great to see for him, as well as Chris Jabot getting that top 5 finish. Been a little while since we've seen him up in the podium placings or the top 5 placings. So good rebound for him tonight. Luis Gonzalez Nunez coming in at 6 with Dan Marrera just behind him. Nick DeGroot, again, our championship leader as of right now, still finished in 8th place tonight. Joseph Morales just behind him in 9th, with William Gunn rounding out the top 10. Jim Brooks with a bit of an up and down night, ending up in 11th place. Gary Corley in 12th. Obviously, we mentioned the trouble late for Craig Forsyth, going a few laps down. He finishes in 13th, with Charles Teed with his struggles as well, and Taylor Reeves behind them, finishing out your field for tonight. But yeah, definitely a lot of excitement. As you mentioned, 3 races to go, Gael. I guess, is there anything different that you would expect to see in the next couple weeks, other than a great championship battle between Jeff Heisong and Nick DeGroot?
I think a great championship battle is definitely the top of the list of what we expect to see, which I'll say, obviously, you'll know really well because, you saw what was happening at Auto Club. Expect similar in Michigan because, like I said, basically a sister track over there. But to me, I think the wild card is New Hampshire. That's going to be a very difficult track to pass at. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what these guys have in store for that one. So I think that's one I got to circle on my calendar that I think could be a make or break for some drivers' championships hopes.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely interesting to note. Obviously, we mentioned the struggles last week for Matt Wagner and Nick DeGroot having to pit once more than the rest of the field and kind of taking themselves out of it for the finish there. Definitely something to remember for next week, and something that I think everyone's going to be paying attention to, but especially the number 6 in the 89 machine, hoping to kind of rewrite that score and maybe have a much better night, especially for the 89 of Nick DeGroot next week as well. So like you mentioned, we got Michigan next week on the 11th, New Hampshire, and then our finish of the season will be at Indy for the 3rd 2022 schedule. Definitely going to be exciting for sure, and can't wait to see how this championship battle unfolds. We've seen lots of new winners, which is exciting to see. Mentioned that fresh blood in victory lane, and change it up a little bit, and should be a great battle through the rest of the season. Don't forget, obviously, we've got the Dark Horse Area 51 IndyCar Series here on Green White Checker TV on Tuesday nights. Plenty of action left with the 3 weeks remaining in this season. We've also got 3 weeks remaining in the season on Thursday night, which is our Truck Super Speedway Series. Lots of action there going on, as well as on Sunday nights in the Xfinity car Super Speedway Series as well. So lots of action there, lots of side-by-side Super Speedway action, so plenty of stuff going on here all week long at Green White Checker TV. Make sure you check those other nights out. Obviously, a few guys that run those broadcasts. They do an absolutely amazing job, and it's a lot of fun to watch them. So hopefully have you guys back next week, and hopefully see you guys tuning in other weeks on Green White Checker TV, and for the Dark Horse Area 51 IndyCar Series and Green White Checker TV. We're signing off for tonight. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and see you soon.